Hello and welcome to the Week 15 edition of the Monster Pod. Matt Brown, Mo Nuwwarah, going through each and every game, give you all of our bets, all of our leans, and any of the games that we absolutely hate. Just a reminder, everything we do absolutely free here, so please go ahead, subscribe, hit that little thumbs up button. Let us know in the comment section how you are playing any of these games this week, and certainly we'll give you a look there. Upper right-hand corner of thelines.com, also for a free Discord as we get things going. Not much to talk about from Thursday night there, Mo, so we can kind of just move on here. Field goal fest, not a single touchdown. I guess the only thing would be if you wanted to let everybody know that you had the no touchdown 200-1 ticket or something like that.
Didn't have that, but do have Rams to win the NFC, so very big W there. I think maybe I needed a win there if we were going to have a sweat here, so I mean, man, it's just every time I need Matt Stafford to do anything positive, he just looks atrocious. But the D showed up to play, so they should be live as long as they don't have to play any good defenses outdoors, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like that just as good as anyone. I mean, who else can you like in that division, right? I mean, it's like there's no team to love in that division, so you might as well like at least you got the Rams, and you do have the Matthew Stafford factor to go along with a good coaching staff.
Yeah, there's just like nobody that really scares me in the NFC, although maybe the Eagles should. I guess if they played in Philly, I'd feel pretty rough about it, but anybody else, like I said, as long as it's either or a beatable defense or indoors, I guess this Rams offense should be live.
All right, guys, kick things off here. Washington Commanders on the road at the New Orleans Saints. This is 7.5 in favor of the Commanders. 43.5 is our total here in this one. Commanders coming out of a bye, so should be feeling pretty good. You got the Saints team that now not only down Taysom Hill, but is now looks like they're going to be Jake Hainering at quarterback or whatever with this one, Mo. I already thought the Saints were one of the worst teams in the NFL that were just kind of getting by, and now I really, truly believe that they are one of the worst teams. I agree with Washington being a big favorite. Don't know if I agree with them being a 7.5-point favorite, though.
Yeah, this one I took early. I took Washington -3 early. That doesn't help anybody, but
yeah, beautiful ticket to have, though.
Yeah. I kind of think they could still squash this Saints team. It's like you said, all they really had going for them was Taysom in the red zone and basically the few throws that Derek Carr, when you gave him a clean pocket, he's going to make some decent throws. Mm-hmm. That was the toughest watch of the week last week, probably was Saints Giants.
By far.
The only positive thing that either team was doing on offense was a few pretty good Derek Carr throws. I still think they might get buried here. I'd be a little bit tempted to take the 7.5. I know the Saints are playing hard, and the defense has been okay at times, but look at the caliber of competition they've been playing, and Washington was crushing all these bad teams early in the season. I kind of feel like we could be getting back there here, so that would be my lean. If you want to use Washington in teasers, I think that's probably pretty good. I know it's a favorite, but I think Washington is going to probably roll over the Saints.
I know most teams probably wouldn't want the late season bye and all that. I think it probably hit Washington about the right time. It kind of seemed like they were wearing down a little bit. It kind of seemed like maybe some of the air had come out of the tire a little bit. So I actually like the fact that they got that late season bye. I think it's probably good for a team like Washington. I'm with you. So I didn't play the full teaser. We've talked about it several times here on the pod already. I just did the kind of the alt line parlay deal. So I only took 5 points from the books as opposed to 6 to move it under the 2.5. So move it through the 7, move it through the 6 and the 4 and the 3 and all that. So I'll tell you the second leg of it a little bit later here in the podcast, but opened up an alt line parlay here with the Commanders, and I'm with you. It's just they've played very, very good against bad teams, and I think the Saints at this point qualify as a bad team. So I think Washington could end up, if I was going to play 7.5, I'd probably also play 9.5, and I'd probably also play 12.5 and like stuff like that, because it could just be, something like that for the Commanders for sure. Miami Dolphins on the road at the Houston Texans. This is 3 in favor of the Texans at home against the Dolphins. 46.5 to 47 is our total. News coming through this morning that Odell Beckham's taking his ball and going home. He didn't like the fact that he wasn't getting the ball thrown his way, and so Odell Beckham and the Dolphins have mutually parted ways here in this one. Texans, another team coming off of a bye here. Mo, we had a lot of byes last week. Probably could do them some good as well, as that offense has looked pretty clunky. Even when Nico Collins has gotten back, has looked pretty clunky. What do you think here of them having to win by more than a field goal?
I like the Dolphins a bit. I think I'm going to be on the Dolphins. Also like the under in this game. You got two teams that are very slow, bottom 10-ish, both teams, in pace. So two teams that I don't really expect much explosive offense out of. Two teams that giving the ball to their running backs is generally kind of their best plays right now, or at least their most consistent plays, definitely for the Texans and for the Dolphins. You know, we've seen more and more Devon Achane in recent weeks, and obviously Jonnu Smith, and not a ton of 50-yard plays to Tyreek Hill, although, you know, there was a couple recently, but still has not looked exactly like the Dolphins offense of the past. So 47 seems a bit high to me. And yeah, I don't know if, I know the Dolphins are, you know, record-wise much worse than the Texans. I don't know if the Dolphins are a worse team than the Texans, though. I mean, this looks like a playoff caliber team. Ever since Tua came back, they've been pretty solid. Even, you know, the L giving the Bills a run there, arguably outplaying them in that game. I mean, I know I was excited about the Texans, but I think this is just what the Texans are at this point. You know, this is a very good defense, though, so they're rating out very high in all the metrics. I'm not thinking a Dolphins offense that has been more of a grinder is going to just like have its way with them or anything. So yeah, I'm interested in the Dolphins. If you can get 3, I mean, I think it's fine, and under looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I played some 3 on the Dolphins, and mainly because I looked at last week against the Jets, and I saw a box score that made me feel a little bit more comfortable with backing the Dolphins again, which was like, okay, your primary receivers were Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Your secondary receivers now were Achane and Jonnu Smith, as opposed to the offense running through Achane and Jonnu Smith. And I have no idea if this was just a game adjustment with the what they saw from the Jets, or if McDaniel like looked around and said, okay, guys, like, what the hell are we doing? We've got these two, you know, Ferraris out here, and we're choosing to throw it to the damn Nissan Sentra over the middle with Jonnu Smith over and over and over again. So I'm kind of hoping there was at least a little bit of a shift back to what you and I were talking about there, or that we at least feel like this Dolphins offense should be. We thought it would be coming back into the season. So I really did like that a ton. 19 targets between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle last week. And so I'm kind of hoping that we saw a little bit of a shift with that back towards that. And if that's the case, as good as this Texas defense has kind of been, there's not really any defense out there that is going to be able to, as good as Tua's been playing. By the way, I mean, it's worth noting, since he's come back from the concussion stuff, like, Tua's been really good. Like, I mean, he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And so I kind of hoping that offensive shift gets them a little bit more in line here. Plus, you're catching 3 with a Dolphins team with a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle and a Jonnu Smith. So even if you're down, like, that back door is always wide open indoors with this Miami team as well. So really do think that that's the play here in this one. Houston has not done anything to inspire confidence in me at all this season. I think they're going to get bounced early from the playoffs. If they even make it, who knows? Hell, maybe they lose out. We'll see with all that. New York Football Jets on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is 3.5 in favor of the Jets. 40.5 is our total here in this one. You have Garrett Wilson come out and say that maybe they have like a losing gene within the organization there, Mo. And then you have Aaron Rodgers come out and say like, oh yeah, maybe there's some sort of curse over this team. So love backing a team at 3.5 that thinks they have a losing gene and that they're cursed, right?
Yeah, on paper, I mean, I definitely think the Jets are the side here. I mean, the Jaguars are just so bad, man. I mean, that was another really rough sweat for me. It came home, but that was not fun. Even got the money line, but Do I honestly think the Jags outplayed the Titans? Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
multiple stops inside the 10. I mean, it just came down to a few high leverage drives and plays. So feel fortunate to have gotten that one home. And the Jets probably outplayed the Dolphins. I don't know. That game was close. I think if the Jets show up and play well, they should probably run away from the Jags here. Even with some of the injuries, I'm a little bit concerned. But, how is anybody going to take advantage of the Jets having backup DBs in or whatever where you just have this Jaguars passing game? I mean, you have the one thing the Jets have consistently done is they're still putting pressure on the passer. And Mac Jones he tries throwing off his back foot. He just gets lost trying to navigate the pocket. I just don't see him do anything positive when he's under any ounce of pressure. So I have very, very big concerns about the Jags offense this week. So I like the Jets, but I think it's probably more of a contest look for me because I just don't know if I can put real money on this team when it's a road game against a bad team and they have nothing to play for.
That's my only holdup here for sure. I watched the Jags Titans. I ended up getting on the Jags as well. Not for 1 second did I ever think that was going to get home even with how terrible the Titans are and how terrible the Titans were playing. I guess my only thing that is good, but probably you can get away with the Titans and probably won't be able to get away with this Jets team is he was at least force feeding Brian Thomas. He was at least trying to get the ball in his best playmaker's hands and see what he could do. Target him, 12 different times in that game against the Titans. Ended up reeling in 8 of them. And that's about the only thing that you could say positive from the Jags in that game, other than the fact that they did win 10-6 to let you know the state of the Titans there in that one. Yeah, I feel your sentiment is dead on. I mean, it's I could probably make the click in a contest for the Jets. It'd probably be way easier than I could make the click for them in real life. Given what I heard this past week, with all this, I mean, they are so incredibly defeated and deflated with absolutely nothing to play for. With a team that came in with everybody, some people say about them going to the Super Bowl and whatnot, and now they're going to miss the playoffs grossly. So, yeah, contest play for me. Probably, maybe depending on if I decide to want to get froggy, maybe some Brian Thomas props in this thing. Just it looks like Mac Jones is just going to force him the ball, which he should. That's about the only thing that they have going for him at this point. Cincinnati Bengals on the road at the Tennessee Titans. This is 4.5 to 5 in favor of Cincinnati, and actually ESPN Bet has a 5.5 out there, so anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 out there in the market. 46 to 46.5 is our total. Just talked about that Titans team who lost outright to the Jags last week in what was the second worst game you could ever watch with your own eyeballs outside of the other one that we just talked about. And Cincinnati, I mean, it's the same story with Cincinnati. I mean, Joe Burrow's amazing. He has incredible playmakers. They'll score points when needed, and the defense and offensive line are going to fail them. So that's basically kind of the story of this Cincinnati team. Can they win by 6 points, Mo?
I mean, they can. Do I want to bet on it? No. Yeah, the defense looks like it should be a bit healthier for the Titans. That was one of the concerns we talked about last week. So can they put pressure on Joe Burrow and beat this offensive line, which looks like it's, I think, going to be down Orlando Brown? Yeah, probably. So that might derail this Cincinnati offense a bit. And then can Will Levis score points? Probably against Cincinnati. I can't lay a number like this. It's very similar to last week, with the Cowboys catching those points. That should have been a pretty easy cover for the Cowboys. That was probably the beat of the week. If you had Dallas, condolences. So I guess what I would be looking at in this game is I think maybe the Titans live is a nice look if it gets to 14-3 Cincinnati and you're getting, 12.5 or something. The back door is just, it's like you said about the last game. I mean, we just can't trust Cincinnati to get a stop. So I do think Tony Pollard being out might matter a bit here. They've been, if he's out, I guess, but they've been a little bit hesitant to lean into Tajay Spears, who I think he's been pretty useless this year. I don't know if he's just hurt because he was like pretty good last year. So that would be a small concern there. And yeah, it's a road game against a bad team again with a Cincy team that who knows how motivated they are. Their season is meaningfully over probably, and I can't lay this number when you can't get a stop basically.
A 48 hit. I played a little under. The Tennessee Titans inspire nothing in me as far as being able to score consistently. And then Cincinnati we saw last week. I mean, like, this offensive line is just, it's like their third rebuild and continue to just have all these troubles. Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow wasn't Joe Burrow and had the pocket presence that he had, Mo, when you watched that game last week, he'd have been sacked like 5 more times in that game. Like he just has that crazy good sense of when the pressure is caving in on him and all that. And it's like, you know, I can see this like kind of has them scoring 24, Titans scoring, you know, whatever they score, 20 or whatever. Yeah, it's I thought 48. One book I don't have availability to DraftKings. DraftKings actually hit 49 at one point, and I would have loved to have played the under on that at 49. But there was a 48 here in town, and so played a little under on the 48 there in this one. I just don't. As bad as the Bengals defense is, we kind of saw last week where it's like, you know, Cooper Rush couldn't take advantage of it because Cooper Rush is Cooper Rush, and you know. Cooper Rush is Will Levis. Will Levis is Cooper Rush, you know, like all of that. And so I don't know if he can really light this defense up either. Played a little under. That's kind of how I'm looking at there at that one. Baltimore Ravens on the road at the New York Football Giants. This is ballooned out to 16.5 at some of the books out there. 42.5 is our total. So yes, we have a 16.5 point spread in a 42.5 total game. I don't know what to tell you. I know in years past, it's an auto play on the dog in a 42 total and a 16.5 point spread, but holy mackerel. Not only are the Giants bad, they're going back to Tommy DeVito, who now the Giants can say they are fielding the worst quarterback in the NFL this week. Mo, this is just, I feel that, you know, this opened at 13. Like there were opportunities to get in at 13 on this. It's run 3.5 points. Like, I don't know. I don't know if this will even make a TV for me this week.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the 13. It's crazy. Like 4.5 point move here. Been around 16, been around 17 now. I think this is probably where it should be. If you just believe in like efficient market theory at all, I guess you can just parlay the Giants and the under if your book will let you. Because that has to be correlated, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But other than that, I don't have a lot to say about this game other than I can tell you that holding a Giants ticket last week, I desperately wanted Tommy DeVito to come into the game. That's how bad Drew Lock was.
Yeah.
So I guess we get to see Tommy Cutlet's sideshow is back, and that's about all I have to say about this game. The Ravens should win by whatever they want, but we'll see if that actually happens.
It's the deal of I had somebody ask me yesterday and say, like, you know, what motivation does an NFL team have to win by 17 points? And I was like, well, they don't necessarily, but if you're the Ravens, you're coming out of a bye, you figured out a way to lose 5 games this year. So it's not like the Ravens. I think people look at the Ravens because we always put them in that upper tier, right? And it's like, well, yes, I still think the Ravens are very good. They still have to win games. Like, I mean, like, they're not in the playoffs yet. They're 8-5, right? And so I think that they try to run a good offense in this game and try to get everything clicking coming out of the bye. And if that just leads to a 24-point route, then kind of so be it, you know? So that was kind of my answer, which was the Ravens are still 8-5, right? I mean, they still got to win football games, and it's the NFL, so they're not going to like run bad plays for 3 quarters or whatever, you know? And so that was kind of my theory as to how this kind of gets there with all of that. But like you said, I mean, old school would be you take points in a game with a 42 total. Like if you're getting 16.5 points, you always do that, but I can't do it. Like I said, I watched that game with last week just like you did. This team is, this team is full on packed it in. Like they're done. They don't want to play football anymore.
Yeah, and then you just have like a defense that was getting pressure on the quarterback. That's all they had going for them, and now their best player is out. I mean, multiple other players are out. Starting corner, Drew Phillips. I mean, I just don't know what is left of this Giants team. This is, I know the Raiders are pretty bad, but I think this has got to be by far the worst roster that's left.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kansas City Chiefs on the road at the Cleveland Browns. This is sitting 4.5 in favor of the Chiefs. 43.5 is our total. We sat here and said, I played it. I lost the ticket. We sat here and were like, okay, here's the week. The Chiefs finally cover. Chiefs did not cover. Yet again, we find ourselves with 4.5 as they head on the road to face Jameis and the Browns, who they are going to stick with Jameis despite the fact that they have been eliminated from the playoff picture at this point, Mo. So, I mean, the question is not necessarily do we think Kansas City's going to win. That's all they do. That's all they do is win. They figure out a way to win. Can they win by 5 points?
Yeah, this one is interesting because of the weather. Howling winds I'm seeing. It wasn't this bad early in the week, so I think that might be behind the market move here because you had Chiefs earlier in the week sitting 6, 5, 5.5. It just keeps coming down. So somebody loves the Browns. Somebody the market respects loves the Browns. I'm seeing 16.5 or 16 mile per hour winds. I'm seeing 94% chance of rain. So this could be truly dreadful football weather. We just saw 2 teams last night in a monsoon that couldn't score a single touchdown. So I think I get what's going on here with the move. I mean, people are probably just, okay, the Chiefs. The market setters obviously have a higher opinion of the Chiefs than maybe not they deserve, but at least that the Chiefs are going to perform like, right? They're just out there going 80% speed. So you have that combined with a game where it's going to be difficult to run away from anybody. I get the move, but also when I look at this matchup, the worse the weather is, doesn't that favor the Chiefs more? I mean, you just trust Patrick Mahomes to get the short passing game going, and the Chiefs' rushing attack is grading out really well, and every time I watch the Browns, they cannot run the ball.
No, the Browns' offensive line is in shambles. You have, and listen, I was rooting harder than anybody for Nick Chubb to be able to come back off of the horrific injuries for a third time, but like, I think it finally caught up. I mean, he looks pedestrian out there. You know, I think Ford is probably their better option even than Chubb at this point. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If it's like terrible conditions and you can't run a normal offense, then certainly Jameis trying to kind of like do a non-traditional offense and with the run game that the Browns currently have, that has to swing it mightily towards the Chiefs.
Yeah, and then you just have one really bad matchup, obviously, for the Chiefs. I don't know how they're going to block Myles Garrett, but at the end of the day, it's still Patrick Mahomes. You know, he has eyes in the back of his head. He does know how to adjust to these situations. So I do kind of like the under here, though. I mean, just with the conditions, 43 surprises me with how high it is, just given I know the Browns are an over machine right now because Jameis plays the way Jameis plays, and he's just like, Jameis is probably the single number one biggest driver of the over, aside from maybe Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase in the NFL right now. So I might play the under. If this weather ends up being as bad as it looks right now, 43 seems pretty high to me.
And, you know, it's worth noting that, yes, the Chiefs are in the driver's seat for the 1 overall seed, but it's not locked up. So, I mean, like, still have to give maximum efforts here for all of this. You do have Buffalo and Pittsburgh. They're both still sitting there at 10-3. So it's not locked up yet either. So I expect a full effort here from Kansas City against this Cleveland team. And we'll monitor, of course, guys, the weather stuff here over the next 24 hours. So be sure and check that out. Kevin Roth, a good guy to follow for all that. Just Google NFL weather. You'll see it'll come up over on Roto Grinders. Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Carolina Panthers. This is 2.5 to 3 in favor of the Panthers at home over the Cowboys. 42-43 is our total. Actually, we got a 43.5 out there as well is our total. Mo, I've talked about this a bunch. I'm on air live whenever these lines are hitting. This hit at 1. I played the Panthers at 1. Watching Dallas and watching Cooper Rush, you start to realize, like, you start to realize, like, the difference in these backup quarterbacks, right? It's like, yeah, sure, he has a lot of experience and also, but, like, there's a reason why Cooper Rush is the last resort, right? And I mean, he's missing wide open passes over and over again, including the last play of the game where they could have at least had a shot to try to do something against Cincinnati. There was just an obvious talent gap whenever I was sitting there watching. And honestly, Bryce Young, I think, is changed my opinion of a team the most in the last month than I've had maybe of anything. Like the Panthers, my mindset and my view of this Panthers team over the last month has moved so incredibly drastically. And it's not just from my eyeball test, Mo. I think that the numbers bear it out, right? I mean, this is a competent offense under Bryce Young over the last 4 or 5 games. This is a team that is in the upper half of most of these advanced statistics that you and I look at and that we quote here on this show. And Dallas, same cannot be said for Dallas. Now, Micah Parsons always going to be a problem as long as Bryce Young doesn't, like, make terrible decisions and turn the ball over a ton. I think that they can win this game outright. So I laid it at 1. At 3 is not a play for me. 3 maybe even switches it over to the Dallas side of things. But at 1, I thought it was fine. There are some expensive 2.5s out there if you do like Carolina.
Yeah, I'm definitely tempted by Dallas at 3. It's a good matchup for Carolina, though. Just the fact that, like, this team can run the ball. They want to run the ball. You have a Dallas defense that is 32nd in rush defense EPA. They're being trucked on the ground basically all year. And like you said, what Dallas has going for them is a pass rush. This is a legitimate pass rush for sure, but that's where Carolina's strong on offense, is up front. You know, their top quarter of the league in adjusted line yards and adjusted sack rate. That being said, just Jimmy's and Joe's, this is a better roster for Dallas, right? Like, they just have better players practically across the board here. I'm a little bit tempted at 3 to play them. I think I probably will at 3. If at flat 3, man, I just don't see how Carolina. I've been writing Carolina every week for a month basically now, but I think the market has finally adjusted to what you said, that this is a okay NFL team. Like, maybe that's too far. They're a run-of-the-mill bad NFL team. They are not a
dumpster fire anymore. Like, they are not that anymore.
Yeah, so if that's the case, like, I think we knew that was the case, or we at least had a feeling that was the case. You know, I talked about Panthers plus 12 against the Chiefs, Panthers plus 12.5 when I got a bad number, but I already knew it was like, I figured it was either going to be a one-possession game or a blowout, so I wasn't too worried about that. They just keep covering every week, and that can't happen forever. The market finally was like, okay, we have to price this like a reasonable NFL team, and I think it did.
Yeah, I ran to the prop market, and same thing with the books adjusting here. I mean, I was like, okay, this is a Chuba Hubbard game. I'm going to, like, fire this dude over and over again. They have his rushing yards at 80.5, right? Like, and that's at the market low. If you look at the market high out there, like, FanDuel has an 85.5, like, for Chuba Hubbard. And so a little too rich for my blood. I still think he eats in this game. Obviously, if you have Chuba Hubbard in fantasy, like, he is going to be great for you this week and all that. But don't think I can put that ticket in the account, but they're going to ride the hell out of him. They paid him. Brooks went down. So, I mean, this is going to be the Chuba Hubbard show here against this, like I said, absolutely atrocious Cowboys run defense. They made the Cincinnati run offense look okay last week, and Cincinnati can't do anything on the ground. So, I don't love it, but I just think, I actually kind of like what Bryce Young is doing right now. I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, I rewatched a Panthers game. Like, I rewatched a couple of these Panthers games to make sure that I wasn't just getting, like, caught up in the moment or something. It's like, this dude's doing really good stuff. Like, he's stepping up in the pocket and making confident throws, and he's not making those horrible throws, Mo, that like we were sitting here going, dude, this guy is the worst, where it's just like these terrible turnovers. Like, he's not doing that, and he's not done that for well over a month now, so I don't think it's kind of a fluke. I don't know. I don't know if something clicked. I don't know if it was the pressure being off of him. I don't know if what it was, but I mean, he is playing the quarterback position at a very competent level right now.
Above the median, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he might be the ultimate case study of like confidence mattering in sports. I mean, like the dude is just out there having fun again, playing football, which is crazy to say, but you know, you just looked at him before, he would look like a broken shell of a human. And like you said, now that, you know, he gets benched, he gets a reset, he's just going out there and playing ball and having a good time. And that matters, you know, like at the end of the day, we can look at all these metrics all we want, we do, but this is a game played by human beings. And you have to, if you are not basically a lunatic, you are not going to survive out there in professional sports.
I agree 100%. Like, it's a great way. It's a great way to put it. Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles, game everybody will be paying attention to this week. Got to find out what the Steelers team is all about. See if they're a fraudulent team in the grand scheme of things. Does not look like they're going to have Pickens for this one. So this line sitting 5.5 now in favor of the Eagles. 43 is our total. Eagles kind of played with their food a little bit last week. Certainly could have lost that game outright last week. Didn't. Ended up winning. So it's hard to win in the NFL, win and win and win. So I'll give them that. But wasn't the best performance from them for sure. Defense is still really good. And we'll figure out if this whole internal locker room spat stuff is actually for real or not with the Eagles. It's a dead, kind of that dead-ish number there, Mo, sitting at 5.5.
Yeah, I hate what I'm seeing from this Eagles passing game, but at the same time, when you look at the Steelers and the way they play offense, and like you said, not having Pickens is just massive. Some teams, you know, you can get over having your receiver out. I think the Steelers are not one of them. When you're talking about more Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin targets. Right. I mean,
like, that's your guys, you know, like that's the difference. Like, you're going to these, like, you're going from Pickens, who's like the best 50-50 ball dude in the game right now, whatever, to these little like 5'9" like receivers, or like, it's just so different.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm just not really clear how they're going to attack this Philly defense, because the way you want to come after these Fangio defenses is just by, you have to be patient. You have to check down. You have to run the ball. You know, these are not things the Steelers are good at. These are not things Russell Wilson is good at. So I'm concerned about the matchup from that standpoint. But like I said, it's tough to cover a number like 5 when your passing game is unexciting, like the Eagles are right now. So I don't know. We have seen the Steelers defense get beat on the ground at times too, but I'm not. Especially, you know, the total is 43. Could be some more rain here, I think. Yes, 40% chance of rain. Am I going to lay 5 in a spot like that? I don't really want to. So, yeah, just off this game, but interested in it from a viewing standpoint for sure.
Yeah, I played a little. It wasn't a big one for me. I played a little under 55.5 rushing yards on Najee Harris. I don't know. I kind of think we see a little bit more Jaylen Warren out there in this one. And I mean, frankly, like you said, I mean, this Eagles defense is just really, really good, and you need to kind of like do the little chip away. Yeah, you're going to have to like throw to the back, out of the backfield, you know, a lot, and they tend to want to give that to Warren more than they do Harris, excuse me. So I played a little bit of the under 55.5 rushing yards. Wasn't a huge play for me, and it's more kind of me walking down what I think that the Steelers are going to have to do on offense to have more success. So I think we get maybe a few less snaps for Najee Harris, who, as everybody knows, is not the most efficient runner as it is anyway in the game. Buffalo Bills on the road at the Detroit Lions. Game of the week here. 2.5 is our line in favor of the Lions at home. 54.5 is our total in this one. We're indoors, Mo. Everybody's ready to rock and roll. We know the Bills can put up points. We saw that last week. We know the Lions can put up points. We've seen it several different times. So here we go. I'll be very simple with this one for you. I'm sitting back and watching this thing. At this point, basically, I have so much riding on the Lions winning out as it is with all my futures tickets and stuff. So I basically have a rolling parlay going on the Lions as it is anyway. So on the sidelines for this one, but cannot wait. I'm glad it's in the afternoon window. I'm glad we can sit there and actually really, truly pay attention to this game. But nothing in the count for me yet.
Yeah, this one was 3 at a few points, I think. I understand why people want to play the Bills at 3. I can't really say that I wouldn't be interested in doing the same. So I get it from that standpoint. At the same time, do I think the Lions are maybe a slightly better team? Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, I do. I guess my thought there would be maybe I'm wrong, though, if the Bills are, like, they get their pass catchers back last week, and all of a sudden, this offense looks much more dynamic, much less ground-bound. Amari Cooper making plays down the field. This is just a much scarier team when they're playing football like that. I don't think the Bills are as good as everyone else seems to think when they've been the last month or so when they're just running this unexciting Joe Brady offense that I'm not a fan of. So if they're going to get the ball down the field, I do have a little more confidence in the Bills. But like you said, I'm just more interested in this one as a fan just to see what these teams look like.
Yeah, as you said, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, full practices all week. Milano on the defensive side for the Bills, full practice all week. So Bills should be about as good as we've seen them in quite some time. And then Lions have just run on the worst side of injury variance on the defensive side of the ball and the best side on the offensive side of the ball. So it's like that's what you kind of have with this Lions team heading to this one. As a fan, totally geeked for this one. I hope the total is right because I want to see 55 points scored in this game. So I hope that the total is on, but nothing that I'm running to the account to throw in there.
I guess what are your thoughts on that total? Do you have a lean there? I mean, 54. I'm a little bit tempted to play the under for sure.
It would only be an under for me, strictly based off of like what we just. At the end of the day, it's this. The NFL at 55 points, where you need 55 points to cash an over ticket, is just not going to be a very profitable bet very often, right? And so it would be under or nothing for me. I am scared of a little bit of what we saw last week from Buffalo maybe carrying over to this week. Like you said, it was like the first time that it seemed like Josh Allen had any confidence throwing to Amari Cooper, and then he threw to him a ton and actually tried to really utilize him in the offense. And I'm like, okay, now if that's going to be more of what we see here with this team, that gives me a little bit of pause. But yeah, it would be under or pass for sure for me.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I guess my other thing in this game that I just should throw out, that makes me nervous from a Bills standpoint is just you have a Lions team at home in a huge spot for them, with a coach who's going to have them ready to eat metal basically, and then a Bills team that this game is way more important for the Lions. Like they already have the division locked up.
Yeah. They
know they're probably not catching the Chiefs now. And then the Lions are still in a chase for the 1 seed, the division. I mean, everything.
Yeah, I think because the Lions have been so good all year that people like, again, if you don't go in and actually look at the standings, sometimes you might not realize that this is nowhere near locked up for Detroit. Like this thing could go south really, really quick. And so they have to keep foot on the gas at all points. So I guess to me, and this is why as a fan and a guy that has so much Detroit futures tickets, that this is so interesting to me and why I can't wait to watch it is this defense at some point going to break? Like you are literally on third stringers at some of the levels at this point. And I just, against a Buffalo offense coming into town, into your place, can you hold them down? Can you hold down the Superman that is Josh Allen? Can you keep them from doing whatever they want to on the offensive side of the ball? Or is this where we finally see, Mo, that all these injuries stacking up, mounting up at every single level, the second stringers getting hurt to where we're down to third stringers, signing guys off of practice squads and off the street and shit like that? Like, does it finally crack,
Yeah, I mean, the front is still has enough bodies, I think, or the back rather, and then the DBs are I'm surprised how good this coverage unit's grading now. I mean, PFF has them third in coverage, and I'm just like, I'm stunned by that. But it's not like people are just going out there killing this Lions defense every week. So I guess I get it.
Yeah, I just can't wait for this one for sure. Indianapolis Colts on the road at the Denver Broncos. Yet another one that is very important in playoff implications. The Broncos are anywhere from a very expensive 3.5 all the way out to 4.5 at home over the Colts. 44 to 45 at 44.5 is our total. Colts coming out of a bye, so we have that team rested and had a couple of weeks to prepare for this one against the Broncos. Broncos also coming out of a bye here. No two ways about it. Bo Nix has been good. Good on Sean Payton. I mean, like Sean Payton saw something in him, wanted to take him in the draft, and Bo Nix has been all right. Certainly revived Cortland Sutton's career there in Denver. Colts can still make the playoffs, Mo, so this is quite an important game here in the overall grand scheme of things.
Yeah, very important. Very important for the Colts. If they win this game, they're back in it. If they don't, Denver can probably start making their playoff plans. So, I don't trust this Indianapolis offense, man. I mean, against a Denver defense that does put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and then on the other side, you have Bo Nix, who has been pretty bad under pressure against a team that doesn't really blitz at all. Seems like a good matchup for Denver at home. I lean Denver, but it's not going to be a play for me, I don't think.
Yeah, my kind of feeling on this, I'd like to get your thoughts, is like, so if you get mediocre to bad Anthony Richardson, then the Broncos win this game and maybe even cover this game, and Mike could cover margin certainly if you get kind of bad Anthony Richardson. If your bet here is that you're playing on the upside of Anthony Richardson, like, isn't this just a money line bet? Like, don't they just win the game outright? I mean, it's not like Anthony Richardson is that type of guy that it's like he's gonna, keep the game close more times than not. It's like, oh, if Anthony Richardson's clicking and he's running great and he's throwing it whatever, like, this Colts offense looks really good. And then when he's not, it looks absolutely atrocious, right? And so I'd almost play the tails here, where it's just kind of like, if you like the Colts in this, at least if you want to take the 4, I get it. It's on the other side of 3 and all, but like, at least sprinkle some on the money line, because they're liable to win the game outright if you get the good version of Anthony Richardson.
Especially when you have Shane Steichen calling games the way he is. And then, you do have some deep target. Josh Downs, I think, is going to play, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like
practice.
He's back.
That's big, And then Alec Pierce. You have guys who can go deep, and you have a Broncos secondary that looked very beatable without Riley Moss, their other corner. So Patrick Surtain can only cover one guy. He is very good, but this is not the sort of matchup where I think he's going to have as much weight as he would in some other ones, where there's kind of an alpha receiver carrying a lot of the water for the offense.
Yeah, if I was on the Indy side, there'd be a sprinkle on the money line for me for sure. Tampa Bay Bucks on the road at the Los Angeles Chargers. This is mainly 3. There's an expensive 2.5 at DraftKings in favor of the Chargers. 45.5 is our total. Pretty much 45.5 out there in the market right now. I don't know what to do. I can't get the Chargers right. I mean, there's like one team every year that I just get wrong because I come in with this bias against them, and then they do certain things and whatever. Like, I don't know, man. I just want to bet against them in the playoffs, Mo. That's basically where I'm at with this. No home field advantage really per se. I guess you could say the travel for the Bucks, just because they have to go across the country. But as we've seen with all of these Chargers games, it's like 50-50, if not more, of the visiting fans in the stands. So I don't really factor that in much at all here in this one. So there is that factor as well. 2.5 to 3. What say you?
Yeah, I'm interested in the Chargers here. I mean, I don't know what to do with this Tampa Bay injury report. Like all these guys were, we know Antoine Winfield is out. He's obviously important. And then you have Tristan Wirfs, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. Like, I think all these guys played last week, but I don't know if that's just going to be a thing every week now. They're just all DNP, and then they play. Like we've seen the 49ers do stuff like this. I don't know who is playing, but if these guys are out, then the Chargers have got to be a play, I think. I mean, I don't know. 2.5 just does not seem high enough if some of these guys are out, but it's a quarterback in LA that I just trust way more than the way I'm seeing Baker play right now. Every week, I kind of feel like we're seeing some regression from Baker, man.
I do as well.
Poor Raiders defense, and he just really, I mean, a lot of big plays, but a lot of really poor ones too. And then obviously there was the Carolina game. It's just he has not been playing well despite some pretty soft competition. So, yeah, the Chargers are going to bring a much higher level of play on defense, and they have a quarterback that I trust. So I'm a little bit tempted by the Chargers. I think I'm going to play them at 2.5 if I can find a decent price on that one. I know that the metrics are telling us in a lot of cases that Tampa Bay is maybe a better team than the Chargers, but I just trust that Herbert can do enough. I mean, I know they looked bad last week, but getting Ladd back is going to be pretty big here, right? And then without Winfield, I mean, we saw this defense regress big time earlier. The Falcons killed them, I think it was, without Winfield.
This is probably the most important, and guys, we're recording this early on Friday, so we don't have the final injury reports. Like, this is probably the most important injury report of the week because, you know, you did have Bucky Irving try to go last week, but then he got hurt and left the game, right? And then you had some of these other guys try to go, and they didn't really play a full complement of snaps and all that. And to go in with what you said too, and I hate it because I kind of like weirdly root for Baker. I don't really even know why, but he has kind of come back down to earth at least a little bit here over the past few weeks. Sure, a lot of it has to do with there's all the surrounding stuff that's going on too with this team and injuries and whatnot. But I'm going to have to hold out here to see that final injury report. If even 3 of these dudes are out to go along with all the other stuff with all the guys that are already out as it is anyway, we keep forgetting, you know, the Chris Godwins and the whatever, you know, all these other dudes on the defensive side that are already out for the season. Might be a little bit too much to overcome. So Chargers or pass for me, and that'll be an injury report based play. New England Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals. This is out to 6 in favor of the Cardinals. 46 to 46.5 is our total. Mo, the Patriots are off a bye, so Matt was able to bet the Patriots over, and they opened this game at 44. They just don't get it. This team is an over team. Like they just don't get it. They opened at 44. Everybody figured it out. It's up to 46.5 now, 46.5 now. But like Drake May's just competent enough to put enough points on the board, and this defense is so bad that the other teams just score and do whatever they want to. Like it's 44 is never enough. 46.5 might be enough, but what do we think about the Cardinals getting all this love sitting 6? I mean, they got to win by a touchdown now, Mo.
Yeah, this is the side I like the most, I think, this week is New England. Like you said, coming off the bye here, up against a Cardinals team that, speaking of regression, I think is regressing to more of the talent level we all expected from the start of the season. You know, I mean, nobody thought this was going to be a very strong team, and obviously they got off to a very strong start. But this defense is poor on paper. They are 28th in pressure rate. They don't blitz. I mean, we know the problem with this New England offense is the offensive line is atrocious. So Drake May's been working around it as best he can. I think in a friendlier matchup here, in a dome, seems like a good spot for them to keep pace, I think, with this Arizona offense. I mean, I know teams have ran the ball decently against the Patriots, but it hasn't been like they've got crushed the way like the Cardinals crushed like the Bears. We haven't had games like that where they're just allowing 150, 200 yards. You know, they're at least making teams work for it, and it's just hard to cover a number like this with more of a ground-bound offense. The Marvin Harrison connection really hasn't happened this year. It's been mostly Trey McBride and pounding the rock. So I like the Patriots to keep this a little closer than 6. My fare was 4 here.
Yeah, and it's kind of like in the NFL, right? I've almost come completely over to the side when it's like bad offense versus bad defense, I'll take the bad offense, like, because there's just so much working in favor of offenses these days with the pass interference calls and the not being able to touch the quarterback and all the things like that. So I kind of like, give me bad versus bad, and I'll take the bad offense pretty much every single time. And I think Drake May, if you're a Patriots fan, this has been a rough season, I get it, but I think you might have something in Drake May. Like, I think dude just needs somebody around him. He's got no dudes. There's no dudes in New England right now, so you just got to get him some dudes for sure. Green Bay Packers on the road at the Seattle Seahawks. This is 2.5 in favor of the Packers on the road at the Seahawks. 45.5 all the way out to 46.5 is our total here. In this one, we've seen a little bit of a renaissance from this Seattle defense. We talked about that a little bit last week, where maybe the system needed a little time to kind of come to getting the players' full buy-in here. But it seems like this team is playing a little bit better defense over the course of the season. Packers coming out of a bye, so they've had a lot of time to get ready here for this one. Mo, Packers and both of these teams are interesting teams for me because on a week-to-week basis, it's like they can fool you. It seems to me like it's like on a week-to-week basis, it seems like both of them can look what you would consider to be good. And then both of them on any given time go in these giant gaps where you're just going, what in the holy hell is wrong with either one of these teams? What do you think about the Packers on the road heading to Seattle?
I like Seattle a bit. At 3, I think it's good.
Yeah.
2.5.
And it'll probably toggle. Yeah, it'll probably toggle.
Yeah, I like Seattle on a teaser if you're into that sort of thing. I mean, you have Geno Smith who struggles behind a bad offensive line, but Green Bay, I don't love this Green Bay pass rush. 27th in blitz rate, 22nd in pressure rate. I mean, I think Jeff Hafley's done a good job. He's came into a situation that was terrible, right? So where the team was terrible. The defense was getting trucked, and they look competent this year, but Geno is good enough, I think, to beat these guys if you're not putting them under pressure. So, and this Seattle defensive renaissance looks real, like you said. I'm buying into it, and I can't quite get the Packers to 3, man. I don't understand how Seattle can be 3, but again, like you said, the market agrees, and they keep knocking it off 3 down to 2.5.
I will say congrats to all of you that had Zach Charbonnet on your fantasy teams last week, and it looks like you're going to get Zach Charbonnet week again this week. Kenneth Walker, a couple of DNPs in a row. So good for you. You're going to win your matchup yet again because, like, you picked up Zach Charbonnet. So good on you there. No, I'm not bitter that I went up against him, a team that had him and Josh Allen last week. So that was fun. Yeah. 100 points between two guys was a little too much to overcome to knock me out of the fantasy playoffs this week. I'm a little too high on Seattle, and I know it. So I as a completely biased take on this game, a full field goal is too much for me. I think, again, I think this is going to toggle between 2.5 and 3. We've already seen some 3s. Full field goal is too much for me on Seattle, and so I actually really like Seattle here at home in this one. I get it if you can't quite get there with what Geno's uninspiring. I get it. I understand. Geno's uninspiring. He's like the least flashy dude basically in the NFL. like DeVito, Tommy Cutlets is flashier than Geno is. I get it. I understand, but it's just. He gets the job done more times than not, and I think a full field goal here at home against this. Do we have any weather in Seattle?
There was, but I think it cleared up.
Okay, so no weather there in that one, but Seattle at home should be able to keep this thing within a field goal. So I feel pretty good with that. Guys, everything we do here on this podcast, absolutely free. Everything we do at The Lines is absolutely free. So please go ahead, support us by clicking that little subscribe button down there. Give us a thumbs up, and then add a couple comments because the YouTube seems to like that whenever there is engagement. So let us know what you think about some of these games out there. What is your best bet of the week? What do you love the most, or a side or a total or a player prop even that you really, really love in any of these? Be sure and let us know. If you go to thelines.com, upper right-hand corner, there is one of the little Discord icons. Click on that. Get in there and have a discussion with the community. That also absolutely free. For Mo, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Week 15 bets.